Hey y'all, I'm Mattman, coming at you live. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into my first Bass of the Month episode. This is the bass that started it all. Well, sort of. My obsession with bass actually started when I was about 14 years old. I walked into the local pawn shop in Pontiac, Illinois. When I walked through the door, the first thing that caught my eye was a sunburst guitar with these massively thick strings. I didn't even know what a bass guitar was back then. But the second I saw it, it spoke to me, and it said one word: power. I knew right then that this wasn't an instrument that was just heard. It was something that was felt. From that moment on, I started pestering my parents for a bass. Fast forward a couple years, age 16, I was flipping through a Sears wish book, looking at the instruments and dreaming, and that's where I saw my very first bass. Item G from page 324, an unbranded bass. I didn't know until recently it was made by Court in Korea. It listed for $219.99, which come out to around $240 out of pocket with tax and shipping. In today's money, that's roughly $750. Back in 1985, Dad was working at third shift in a printing plant in Pontiac, Illinois. W.A. Kruger back then, and then it became Ring A America and finally R.R. Donnelly & Son. My mom was working as a bookkeeper for Niven and Clay Law Firm. For a hard-working family, $240 was a real sacrifice. But Mom and Dad bought me that Sears bass anyway, and that gift sparked a 40-plus year passion for making music. I want to honor them both right off the bat. Without their sacrifice, I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you today. Now, in the catalog picture, it showed a natural wood headstock, but when Sears delivered the box to our door, it actually shipped with a matching black headstock. The original bass left my hands a long time ago. Since I couldn't find a black 80s Court PJ bass, I decided to recreate it. Not just as a replica, but as a proper tribute. My wife actually came up with the idea of naming my basses. However, this one was named long before we met. I was 17 and had a girlfriend who I had given the pet name Angel. So I had a local artist paint that on the fretboard. Since I took a few liberties on the recreation by going with black hardware instead of chrome and the DR Black Beauty strings, she's now the Dark Angel. If you look here on the headstock, you'll see the WL logo. That stands for White Lightning, my first band. Now, the story behind it is pure garage band history. One day, my buddies Mike, Roger, and I were riding our bikes around town, and as we were riding through the South Side Cemetery, we decided, hey, let's be a band. Even though none of us could actually play, since I had just gotten a bass became weapon of choice. Mike decided he wanted to play drums. Roger picked guitar. Mike came up with the name White Lightning, and I hand-designed the original lettering for our logo. Mike is still one of my best friends to this day. Having only older sisters, he's been more like a brother to me. We've been in several bands together over the years, and having that logo right here on the headstock is my tribute, not only to the first band, but to the lasting friendship we've had over the years. Okay, here we are at the bench, and by the bench, I mean a folding table with a towel on it. When I set out to build my Angel bass, I knew I had to keep that matching headstock look. Now, I did make a few key cosmetic and hardware upgrades. Instead of the chrome hardware, I went with the black hardware, so we ended up adding a black anodized aluminum pickguard. And for the bridge, I went with a Music Lily bridge, and I picked that not just because it had a good price on it, but it had all the adjustments I wanted to be able to make on a bridge, including the string spacing. Those saddles that they sit on can move left or right. Also, I did modify the bridge just a hair with my drill press so I could make this a string-through design, as you see on the back. There's the holes, and there's a reflection of my camera. That's the ferrules that were added. So if you ever think about making a string through, be brave, go for it. Now, you might also notice that I've got a pick loader on here. That's what I had years ago. I've always loved these things. Even though I'm mostly a finger player, it's nice to be able to grab a pick when you need to. So we go further down. Here, I'm going to try and keep it steady as I move the tripod. Get down here to the headstock. I had some custom-made decals from Guitar Decadence. He's a seller that makes water slide decals. I designed the Batman Custom Series logo, and got the WL logo on here too, which is very bright in the light, but I'll just move it a hair. There we go. That was never on the original, but wasn't going for exact duplicate of the bass that I had. Now, you notice the gear tuners and everything also. That's the Hipshot D-tuner. As we go back down here, come to about right here. Hope I'm not making anybody seasick. So we flip her over. You might notice there are 6 screws for holding on the neck. That little modification, I kind of borrowed that idea from Billy Sheehan. No, I don't play anything like him. But the stronger neck joint allows for better vibrational transfer throughout the bass, even if it's a small amount. Same with the string through design, including the nut and everything else on here. All those little things add up. You don't get large tonal changes when you make these changes to upgrades to a bass. For example, people will swear they sustain a lot longer with a high mass bridge. I've got a badass 2 bridge on another one of my basses, and the sustain is just a fraction of a second longer, and that's on an open note. You don't really notice that big of a difference. People swear they do, but that's partial placebo effect. However, all the minor changes do add up to massive changes that you will notice compared to the original setup. If you do a bunch of changes at once, including pickups, especially with pickups, you'll notice right away. Which, speaking of pickups, the original Court bass was advertised with power sound pickups. I wanted the same sound. So that's exactly what I went for. I searched and searched and searched. Finally found a seller on Reverb who had a set of P and J power sound pickups. And they were from late 80s, early 90s PJ bass, Court PJ bass. So the sound I'm getting today is the same as the sound I'm getting from back in 1987, including the pots or the controls. I've got actually a master volume on this one. I put in a balance control because I prefer balance over individual volume controls. That's just a personal preference of mine. And of course the tone control. I've also got what's known as a treble bleed in here. So as you turn down the volume, the higher frequencies are allowed to continue on through to a certain extent to keep the sound from getting muddy as you lower the volume. And that's basically only really useful in studio settings. And for the tone control, I kept that with a 0.05 UF capacitor in there. So you can go for a nice deep dark tone if you turn it all the way down, but I'm usually running full throttle on everything. There's times where I do turn the tone down. Now, if you're a real gear nerd, you might notice one detail I didn't quite get right on this bass. The original Sears bass had a mother of pearl dot inlays, but this neck currently has the Gibson style block inlays. I'm planning on a full neck rework video soon. I'll be replacing and reworking the neck with proper inlay, painting it, applying the new water slide decals, clear coating, rounding off the fretboard edges for that smooth played-in feel, and transferring over the tusk nut that I have currently here over to the new neck. So stay tuned for that build project down the road. To test this beast out, I had to bring out the right amp. My very first rig was actually a rewired Kmart sound design turntable, plugged into a 215 custom cabinet, but it didn't have 215s. It had a single blown 12-inch speaker. Now, my first real bass amp was a 76 Fender Bassman 10. My bike got stolen when I was planning to sell it to get money for an amp. I didn't know that Mom and Dad had insured the bike, but that insurance check bought the Bassman 10. I parted with it on an equipment trade, but a few years ago, I saw this 79 Bassman 10 sitting in the local pawn shop. I jumped on it instantly. I'll tell more of that story later. I'm speaking to you today through a vintage Radio Shack highball microphone. They were actually made by Shure Corporation with the Radio Shack logo on it. This is the same exact style mic that I used for vocals in our basement days. And to capture the real tone of the Bassman 10, I've got a classic SM58 mic'd right up on the grill. White Lightning used to practice in the basement of Mike's parents' house. Now, those two had the patience of a saint because we would shake things off the walls and practice for hours. I mean, hours. Sometimes up to 16 hours in a day. That was a great summer. From what I remember, the very first song White Lightning ever played completely through down in that basement was Dokken's Never Unchain the Night. We played parts of other songs, some songs almost all the way through, but my memory remembers this was the one. So let's get this cranked up, run through the 79 Bassman 10, and hit that old song and hear how these power sound pickups sound. Okay, let me know in the comments below what you think of the build, the tone, or your very own first bass memories. If you enjoyed this journey down memory lane, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Join me again on the second Saturday of next month for the next Bass of the Month. Until next time, be good, be well, be safe, be blessed. I'm Matt Man, and I'm out.